Let's get started this afternoon. It is 1:30, and we welcome you to the workshop on responding to disasters this afternoon. And what we're going to be doing is a tabletop this afternoon. And so what I'd like to do is to introduce you to the beginning of our tabletop, which is going to deal with Plasticville. Some of you that are of my vintage, you remember what Plasticville is? Anyone ring any bells with that? Know what it is? What is it, Tom?
It's the miniature houses that usually are around Lionel train sets.
Right. Yeah. So, and they were all made of plastic, and so they had a whole town, a whole community, and everything. So it was made. And that's how you made up. They had the bank and the houses and all that sort of stuff for model trains, particularly HO type stars. So that's what we picked up this idea with. So we are going to visit Plasticville this afternoon and see what kind of situations they end up with. Okay, so this is Plasticville. So let's see what Plasticville looks like. Plasticville is a community with a population of 3,500 people. It has a business section with a grocery store, hardware store, and several other retail stores. The high school has 325 students, and the elementary school has 144 students, K-8. There's also a privately run daycare center. The town is protected by a volunteer fire department, a full-time police chief, and 2 full-time police officers. The SFBN Railroad runs 25 freight trains through the community each day. The major employer in the community is the Sidley Seed Company. The bookbindery employs 12 full-time employees and another 10 seasonal. The community has a small clinic, but the nearest hospital is located in a town 18 miles away and is a level 3 trauma center. The clinic has a doctor who lives in the community and 2 nurses. Propane is used for fuel in the homes and businesses. The village has a water system which is supplied by 2 wells. A street crew of 3 provides street, water, and sewer services. The Wetwater Creek is located a quarter mile south of town. The community has 3 churches, a Roman Catholic church, a Methodist church, and St. William's Evangelical Lutheran Church, LCMS. St. William's is located on the corner of Mary Avenue and Short Street. The congregation is pastored by the Reverend Rex Cars, who has been at the congregation for 4 years. Pastor Cars owns his own home on School Street. The Cars family has 3 children, John, age 12, Edsel, age 8, and Kia, age 2. Mrs. Carr's father, Roger, who has had some health problems, also lives with them. He's 78 years old. St. William's has 197 members. The building is a wood structure built in 1928. In 1956, an educational and office addition was built. It has a kitchen, fellowship hall, and 6 Sunday school classrooms. The average age of membership is 52, and the church has a parsonage, or the church and parsonage are heated with propane gas. If you look, it's still a parsonage, right? That's what we're referring to when we do that. Okay, the next page is the same thing that you see up on the screen right now. That's the way Plasticville looks, and the last page is a picture of the church, which, we won't change it to that right now. So, Dave, if you want to go over there, as we look at this community, what are some of the risks that might be in this town that they might have to consider as far as what could possibly happen here in terms of a disaster? What risks might there be? Propane, okay.
Something to affect their water supply.
Okay, danger to water supply. Yep, might want to write, can you write them a little bit bigger, Dave, so that, okay? The next one, Joel?
Utilities, which would also include electrical power.
Okay? Utility problems.
Trains.
Trains, okay? Not knowing what the trains might be hauling. Granary fire, okay?
Also, somebody falling off of elevators.
Grain what, fire?
Grain fire. Yeah.
In the silos.
School shooting.
Okay?
School explosion.
Okay? Or fire? School fire explosion?
Tornadoes.
Tornado, okay? Weather-related disasters?
Flood, is that a possibility?
Flooding? Okay, the creek is only, what do we say, 3/4 of a mile down the, out of town?
Very big flood.
Could be.
Yes.
We don't have a demographic of the community.
Okay, what would you like to know?
Is that relevant?
I don't know, you tell me.
Landslide?
You mean as far as population is concerned?
Yeah, like what's the makeup of the population, right?
Okay, population is, pardon?
We have the age, but of the church.
Well, that's the congregation. It's an older community and Caucasian white is basically the makeup demographically. Yes?
There would be some risk with, it would seem that the high school must be some sort of consolidated facility because of the elementary school being so much smaller and so many more grades, so there must be busing or having students from a longer distance, so you've got transportation issues.
Okay, school transportation issues. Okay?
You also put up their grain fire, but with the bindery, that potential there for roasting a few marshmallows.
Okay, could be a problem with did you put down there you got transportation, have you got the bindery? No, the bindery. We have a bindery and a grain.
The church is very old and made of wood.
Okay, age of the church building?
Medical situation, flight for life access, those kind of things.
Okay. Medical care?
Yeah, just the access for trauma treatment, even the nearest hospital is not.
Is that right next door, right? Okay.
For those of us not in the know, what's a level 3 trauma center?
Not much.
Level one is
Band-Aids.
Yeah, Band-Aids and,
Level 3 is stabilized.
right, yeah, the transport, right.
Triage, stabilized and transfer.
Right, distance to the next one.
level 1, you can't scan.
Right. You going to join our group? I am. Okay, we need both of you to pull up to these tables then, if you would, please. One at each. Okay, other risks that this community might experience.
We were talking about potential for trauma. What services are available in terms of ambulance and helicopter?
Okay, availability of emergency transportation. There's a local hospital, there is a doctor, but the nearest hospital is 18 miles away.
And with that then, even with mutual aid, if there were a fire, take a while for a neighboring fire department to respond, they probably had saved the foundation.
Okay.
Exterior attack only.
Fire assistance.
Is it in a floodplain?
Well, we know that the creek is nearby, right? So there is a possibility that it could be. Any others? Okay, well, as we move into this, then, okay, I want you to take one of these, and each one of you has a card. You're going to be a certain character in this scenario that you're going to play. So you want to take one and pass it around. So everyone put it in front of you so that we can see who you are and what you're playing. Okay, so as we begin the scenario, that you have different roles. Some of you will have comments at different points. Some of you will not have comments for a while, but you still have that particular assignment. So we're going to move on. Let me show you the church. So there you see the church where Pastor Carrs works. And again, we've talked about the risks in planning to be considered for the congregation, considering that the congregation may or may not have a disaster plan of its own, plus the community as well, and other areas that are necessary for pre-planning. So we talked about what the city consists of, some of the risks and possibilities that we may have. Okay, with each of these, after we have the event or the part that we're talking about, that we want each table individually to talk about who would have a role to play at that point and what that role might be. So if you are Pastor Carrs, what might be your responsibility there? If you're the runner of the Sidley Seed Company, what might be your responsibilities? So here we go into Plasticville on this beautiful day. It has been an unseasonably hot Friday, August day in Plasticville. The temperatures have been in the low 90s. Severe thunderstorms are predicted for later today. The high school band will perform a before-school concert tonight at the park. Harvest time has begun, and the Sidley Seed Company is beginning to gear up to receive the crops. The bookbindery had a small fire this morning, but damage was limited to the office area. Pastor Carrs received a phone call this afternoon that Frida Slaves was taken to the hospital with a possible heart attack. He has premarital counseling scheduled for today and also shut-in calls. Okay, so talk about it at your table, who you are and what you might be doing, what your responses might be. Okay, let's come back and just share a little bit from both groups what kind of things you decided on. Each group should probably have selected a reporter. Any volunteers from Group A over there? Just a little bit of a summary as to some of the things that you felt that were going on that needed to be attended to.
Well, I mean, from like the utility standpoint, gearing up for the storm, gearing up, with the hot weather and power usage potential, those kind of things. The fire chief with supposed ambulance and all that too. His ambulance could be at the hospital already taking Frida out of town, so they might not even be in town. And having people on hand to take care of the crowds because it's hot and heat stroke and all that kind of stuff. To investigation of the fire, if they were called or not.
Okay, good. Who's your spokesman for this group? Oh, doing all jump at once.
There's the PIO already.
Steve, you're in. Fire chief, that would be your job.
Well, it depends on what the scene will eventually
Okay,
be.
just kind of a summary from your group that some of the things that you hit on and talked about. You gonna do that, Steve?
Well, it talked about, the concern at the bindery there in terms of potentially could be a busy time of the season with, and the fact that he would want to access as soon as possible, but until it's ruled the cause of the fire, he wouldn't have access. So, pastor being involved with the person that is having a possible heart attack, but also making arrangements for premarital counseling. What else in terms of the seed, gearing up for its harvest time, so wanted to make certain, since there was a fire at the bindery, to just check and make certain all the fire precautions are in place at the seed company.
So basically, though, it's a pretty average afternoon for the community. We know that there's some potential possible weather-related problems today. It's that time of year. Pastor and everybody else in the community is kind of doing what normally they would do on a hot Friday afternoon in August. So things are pretty normal, right?
Well, this reminds me of a little bit, and some of you in the military might have done something like this, but I'm not sure how it works with the other chaplaincies, but we had a command post and a big table, and everybody around the command post is in charge of their own section. And you go around the room and everyone says, this is what I would do if this happens, this is what I would do if that happens. And then the commander of whoever's doing it's usually the base commander or somebody like that, said, okay, we're all prepared. Are you prepared? What needs to be done? And I just picturing that when we were in the room on that side over there, it just everyone, what would you do to prepare yourself for a situation hasn't happened yet?
And that's having that experience now. If I were living in a community like this, I would have already visited the other churches, the other pastors, to set in place a plan of in the event of something. So where are we going to triage these people, or who's going to be in charge of food, who's going to be in charge of hospital, who's going to be in charge of different things as churches. Because the churches are going to be the gathering places when disasters happen.
How long has Pastor Carr's been there? 4 years. So he's had time to do that.
Yeah.
They've time to organize as a community for some kind of disaster.
One other piece of information that would be helpful, given the heat factor and so forth, are any of these buildings air conditioned?
Probably
For
not.
heat stroke or heat exhaustion.
That team over there said yes, because they were looking at the air conditioner of the church. But that's what they put in their plan. So
This kind of air conditioning.
Most likely, though, the schools would be air conditioned probably before the church would.
could be. So
Okay, but remember, school isn't open yet.
yeah, you mentioned that's what you would do ahead of time. I'm just
Right.
curious, of your churches, how many churches here that you belong to have a plan if a disaster happens? You know, a lot of churches don't.
Right.
Particularly nowadays with computers, do you have a plan? Do you have a backup? You know, we're paperless now a lot of times. You know, and all of a sudden all your records, your baptismal records and all that are gone, or whatever. So, and you need to have a plan.
Okay, let's move on. Severe thunderstorm watch has been issued for the Plasticville area with the possible high winds and hail. Pastor Carrs plans to go to the hospital to see Frida Slaves after his appointments. His father-in-law has not been feeling well this afternoon, and Mrs. Carrs has contacted the doctor. A member of the Board of Trustees called the pastor to tell him that the oak tree on the north side of the church is in bad shape and will have to come down. Okay, your roles, again, discuss among your groups. What's your plan, Mr. Trustee? Who's our trustee?
Trustees over there now. She vacated the office. We need to find out if there's anybody in town who can take the tree down quickly.
Okay. You've got a hazard there, right? The tree that could cause some damage. Okay, if you look at that diagram, that if you look at the church in the street plan, that can you see the tree? Yep, it's on the north side, and you see a little black line under it. The little black line under it. That's a propane tank.
Well, that was a smart place to put it. Hey, trustee, what were you thinking?
Group A, what kind of major things, just to summarize, what you talked about.
Well, pastor's having a hard time deciding what to do, but he's talked to the trustees. They can't take down the tree. He's kind of bailing on Frida and canceling a lot of appointments. His father-in-law's taking priorities right now, so. And others are, that's about it.
She didn't, even she didn't catch it.
They also had an argument about the tree.
They had an argument about the tree? Who argued?
But it's not,
The city and the church.
oh, that's,
The city and the church. Oh, okay.
And we got a church-state relationship here.
Okay. Summarize, Steve?
Well, let's see, we're just, police chief was going to down donuts while power was still on. But excellent suggestion was made to have communication with the mayor, which if there isn't an emergency director in town, the mayor by default becomes the director.
Okay, we don't have a mayor in Plasticville. We have an elected city village president is what he is. Village president. So he's really just kind of part-time, but he's elected. He's in what? Impeach him?
Still need to be in contact
Right. Oh,
with
yeah.
him.
Right.
Yep. For fire, they just checking to see, with it being a volunteer department, how many people are in the community should something happen, as well as check with neighboring agencies that we have mutual aid agreement with as to their availability. And what else was around the table here?
Public Works.
Public
taking
Works.
inventory of who's available and monitoring emergency, or the backup power systems for the water supply and.
And for myself to be monitoring the radar and in terms of and contact with spotters.
What's your job? You said fire
I'm
chief.
a fire chief.
Fire chief.
Wouldn't that be the policeman's job, though, to watch the weather?
How about both and?
And it would seem as though that somebody would have eyes on a schedule of trains coming and going. That there would be, they would have eyes on that, so that in case there was something, they would know, well, there's a train due here in an hour or two, or they have a place to look.
Probably more than likely would be me because of the potential hazardous materials in there.
Yeah.
So any other comments?
Wonder if the track and the main road out of town intersect, so if the ambulance for somebody needs to get out or resources to get in, whether they can get past the train that would be blocking the main access into town.
Okay, if you look at your picture, that Highway 251 runs through town, and it's also it does cross the railroad tracks as well as 2nd Street. So we got two railroad crossings in town.
Something else that I just thought the bookbinder guy would be doing during the afternoon after a fire, if there's going to be bad weather coming in, would be make sure that if any windows had been blown out or any, that would all be
Boarded up?
boarded up for the afternoon. So he would be occupied with something beside the weather.
Okay, good.
I think the ethnic minority kids in that family that moved into town might be responsible for the fire at that building.
No ethnic minority kids in town.
That's what you say.
Okay,
Is that oblong circle a propane tank at the high school?
that's their track. But if you look at Sidley Seed, then at Sidley Seed you see the grain bins, those are the round circles, and the other ones are anhydrous ammonia. Okay, moving on. A severe thunderstorm with damaging winds, lightning, hail, and rain hit Plasticville in the early evening. The high school band concert at the park tonight was canceled. John Cars went to the concert with his friends and has not been heard from his mother. There is considerable debris around the storm, and city crews and fire department are working on cleanup. Pastor Cars stopped at the church on his way home from the hospital. When he arrived at the church, he noticed that the oak tree had fallen on the church, perhaps doing some damage to the roof. Upon entering the church office, he notices that the electricity is out. He went home. Okay, so you got different roles, different things that are now happening with the role that you're playing that you need to do now that the storm has hit. Okay.
Ready?
Yep. Speak, Group A, or 1, or whatever you want to be.
All the DPW has already called in their 2 or 3 man crew and put them to work, find the source of why the electricity went out. Also had called for backup to come assist. Fire was checking out the community for damage and also assisting with those who may have been, there was checking out the debris and starting for pickup, working cleanup. Pastor, he was kind of lost. And the trustees were already working on getting the tree, but they couldn't find the phone number for the insurance company. We're calling the pastor. How do we get a hold of the insurance company? Should we take pictures and that kind of thing? Make sure that the insurance is going to cover the damage on the church.
Was there damage to the church?
Yeah.
Well, it says the tree fell in the church.
Okay. Was there damage to the church?
I don't know, what's that?
Yeah, we got some damage.
leaks?
Oh yeah, they put tarps. They put tarps on the.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, if we have a hole in the roof now, we may want to take care of that as quickly as we possibly can.
Tomorrow.
And the police department received a call.
Didn't you say the ladies put the tarps on the roof?
No, not on the roof.
Oh,
on
okay.
on the altar, so that.
Oh, on the altar, that's right.
Okay. Yep, that's where it's going to end up if that's where the tree is, right? That's the end of the church.
Done that.
And the police department was out looking for John Cars,
Okay.
who was missing.
Well, he and his friends, right?
Yeah.
I thought
Okay.
the policeman said there was nothing we could do for 24 hours.
Oh, that's what.
Mom says.
Well, that's true though. Missing persons don't take place.
Did I catch everything?
Okay.
They might in a small town.
Okay, what about this group? Bring your mic on over there,
Well,
Dave.
the church itself, we don't know the extent of the damage. It says perhaps doing some damage, but also there's a real danger or a red flag given the fact there is no power in the church, which potentially could be a fire hazard right there, from a fire standpoint. Public Works, they were busy out kind of supervising cleanup as well as the Sidley Seed Company possibly would bring a front-end loader to help with the cleanup. The police chief contacting other law enforcement agencies because undoubtedly he's going to need extra hands. This is not going to be an 8-hour operation. It's going to be a couple of days probably, just in terms of cleanup. In terms of security and then the issue of pastor and finding out what's going on with him and as well as pastor's concern about the parishioners.
Okay. Daytime or nighttime? Well, it could be later by now, right? Light or dark outside? Dark outside. Okay, so we're doing everything. We have some power that is out. We don't know if it's the whole town or if it's just the area around the church or where it is. So lighting becomes a problem for us to get those streets cleared in order to open the traffic lanes. It's getting to the time when probably the community for the time of day is kind of busy. A lot of things going on because we have to get some things open, some things done so that we can start normal at daybreak.
Just in terms of, and I realize this is my biasness from past experience, but just as we were talking here, you really need someone to be in charge of overseeing the whole operation, you know, the NIMS command, incident commander, and setting up a command post and staging area and so forth, but which would make it go smoother and become more organized.
And you would hope, at least, obviously the fire department would probably operate under that system, but not necessarily the whole community. They may not have gotten around to, you know, yeah, maybe we should really have some kind of a plan. Maybe our church should have some kind of a plan. Well, when we have time, we'll work on that. Or it's never going to happen here. Okay? All right, let's move on. Around 2 a.m., a resident of the 300 block of William Avenue calls the police department to report a light haze in the neighborhood. A police officer comes into the area. As he passes St. William's, he notices a door on the B side of the church is open. Everybody know what the B side is? Okay, the front of the building, of any building, is the A side. You go around clockwise, the next side is the B side, the back would be the C side, and the other side would be the D side. So it's on the B side that he has an open door. He goes in to investigate, and when he opens the door, further investigate, he noticed smoke coming from inside the church and calls the fire department. Okay?
Just to add to that, when you said door B, the importance of any building, if you have multiple doors, you should number your doors.
Yep. And if you look at the church building, the diagram of the church building, there's only one door on side B. So it's obvious which one it's going to be in this case. The X is an elevator, by the way. Yep, the X is an elevator. And the tree is side C, Short Street is side B.
So it looks like there are 4 doors.
Where?
On the church.
Oh, all around the church you're talking?
A, B, C, and D.
Yep, there's one on A, which is the front door of the church, B, which is the one we're referring to, the one going into the fellowship classroom area on side C, and then the other one, which would be A1, going into the office.
So there's a fire in there. That's the same side as where the tree is at. And we don't know if there's any power lines. Well, a power line got knocked down somewhere. So there's no electricity to the church, but we don't know if there's any power lines. But if the police...
We don't know necessarily, I don't think the power line got knocked down if the fire started inside the church. It probably is a short that was created in the building itself. Plus then you have the propane tank there.
Or when the tree hit the building, the eternal candle fell over and now it's burning. You know, that's a possibility too. So yeah, so gosh, and that's at 2 o'clock.
Possibly what door might the church pastor have gone into?
Probably the office door.
Probably A1, right? Because that's be going into the office. So you probably wouldn't even maybe have noticed this on the B door was open. Okay.
Right, and for him just to go home, he's gonna for him just to go home. He didn't even see the church, the tree against the church.
Probably.
Possibly.
He's on the wrong side of the building.
Yeah.
And besides, he's anxious to get home.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, let's get the group feedback and then we'll move on. So, see what happens next. Group A.
Police saw the fire or saw the smoke or responded. They called us, we responded, we put out the fire, and we also notified church personnel, i.e. the trustees, who also notified the pastor. And since it's a small town, everybody in town heard about the fire and they all came to watch anyway. So, but fire is out.
No, the fire's not out. Sorry, we didn't say
Told us
anything.
that beforehand.
I just told you that they found it. I didn't tell you that they even started firing. They didn't even start fighting it yet. They just found it.
We're way ahead of
Well,
that.
that blows our whole thing.
Okay. So, Yeah, well, it's
Fire
possible
department
too.
didn't do a good job. No.
All right,
Okay.
I quit. I'm going back to the bar.
Okay, but the role for the fire chief does change, right? Because he's been working on debris removal and cleaning up streets and cutting branches. Sure he was.
That's his job.
Who is he? Oh, well, it's probably going to be both. It's probably who's got the chainsaws? Both, right? Well, fire department has, but the DPW does too. So it's going to be both and probably. Group B.
Well, responding to a potential fire, the law enforcement would be responsible for traffic control and may have to enlist the help of Public Works. Given the possibility of a fire, since it's a volunteer department, probably would put out a call to a neighboring department. You can always call them off to return if they're not needed, but to have them. Public Works would check to make certain the water supply is adequate, but also help possibly in putting up some barricades and so forth for the gawkers for traffic control.
This could be potentially a very serious situation, couldn't it? We have a fire in the church. We don't know what's happened to the other communities, so we don't know how much aid might be available, whether we can call in other departments.
As well as when the fire department arrives on the scene, you want to make certain the building is vacant, given the fact there's an open door.
Yep. Search and rescue.
And I know a comment was made here in terms of trustees, but once fire department is on the scene, trustees become spectators and they're not going to be involved just for safety reasons.
Okay, all right. If that isn't enough, by the time the fire department arrives, flames can be seen coming from the church roof. The fire department calls pastor cars to come to the church. The power company is still working to restore electricity to areas of the village. Okay? Flames through the roof. Okay? So what about that propane tank?
It's only a few feet away from the building.
And now that we got flames coming from the church, if there are flames coming through the roof, how much do we want to send our fire personnel in?
Nope.
They probably,
On?
If you've got enough manpower to run an aggressive interior attack, you may attempt that before falling down.
Okay.
If not, if it's self-ventilating, you're off to a good start, so you've got good open space to see.
Okay.
Deuce and a half in.
So we might have to play defense instead of offense, right? Besides that, we got this power, well, no, we're not in Long Island. We're in Plasticville. That propane tank, or any others that may be nearby. Nearby buildings. The church is the only building on that block, so that's pretty good, but you don't know about embers that may fly off and go into other building, other houses.
Well, if the whole village is dependent upon propane, it's assumed that the fire department would have the foaming methods or needs to cover the propane tanks.
Should have. But again, they've got only so many, and they got a church that's on fire, so you're not going to go.
No, but the immediate one.
Right, the immediate area you would, right. Okay, the sun comes up and members of the congregation gather at the street corners to watch the church burn to the ground. Pastor Cars talks with one of the members who expresses his sadness about the church in which he was baptized, married, and hoped to be buried. While he is talking, he receives a phone call from Mrs. Cars, who tells him that her father has just had another heart attack and has called an ambulance. We'll give you a couple minutes to talk about what roles happens now.
I'm looking for my head elder to help me out here because I can't be in two places at once, and it's possible that this person that's sad because of the church could be the head elder. It's possible that he could be the head elder. It's very possible.
You're making him the head elder. However, the other scenario is that you arrange for someone to come home and stay with the children, and I go to the hospital with my father.
And that's why God gave us a helper. to help us navigate through these
So
kind of
the
things.
church member possibly would say, let me take my wife over to watch the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then we leave and you stay where you have to be.
I think he needs to go with you.
So you're gonna have him come home, Kitty?
Well, that's what I would do in real life.
Okay, what if he's at a fire though? He's got a,
No, I would not have him come home. I'd have a church member come and watch the children.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I'd go with my father.
Okay.
Figuring that he couldn't get away from this.
exactly, good.
And I would have the head elder stay with the fire crew and go with your wife to the hospital.
I think family
Yeah.
comes first.
Right. There's nothing you can do about the church anyway.
Right.
But you can be with support, yeah.
Except that the fire department may want him there. Especially if the fire department doesn't have a floor plan, right? Of course, a church trustee could be there for that, but you know, where are these things? Where is the office? Where are the sacramental things, you know?
Yeah, but in a small town like that, you would almost likely that one of the people on the fire department's gotta be a member.
You got members standing at every street corner.
Yeah,
That
and
could take
they
care of
can be asked, he needs to be with his family.
Okay.
And he's got church members
Actually-
at every street corner. And
Actually, though, just any member won't do. It has to be someone that, you know, it's not just where there's sacramental vessels might be, but where are the church records, you know, and just even in terms of the floor plan. So it has to be someone that really knows the church. The whole thing has really shifted, though, from a community crisis to more of a congregational crisis. I mean, the fire is still there, and so the fire department still has a responsibility and needs someone officially from the congregation. Because the chances are, if you don't have one person that is an official with the congregation, you're going to have a half a dozen well-intended church members coming up to the fire chief, and each one sharing a little different
Right.
even in terms of the floor plan.
Are they really going to be bothered with getting things out or just getting the fire down to start with?
Well, see, that's gonna depend on what that fire looks like. You know, we wanna save everything we can. Sacramental vessels are expensive, right? There's value there. So what are the things of value? What are the things of value that are in the office, right?
And personnel.
you're going to really risk human life to go in and get.
Well, that's what I said, depends on the nature of the
Well,
fire.
you know, and then the other issue, you're talking about church member. I mean, you made my place a crime scene, and it was a trash can fire. This is probably going to be a trash.
Who does the church belong to at this point?
Belongs to the people. Doesn't belong to the pastor.
Belongs to the fire department.
Belongs to the fire department. Who else is gonna come and investigate this fire?
The police department.
Fire marshal.
ATF.
Yeah.
ATF.
But there again, at least in Minnesota, once the fire department clears the scene, the state fire marshal can only come then with the property owner's permission. While the fire department is there, the fire marshal has free access.
Right. ATF investigates church fires. So, ATF. So until ATF is done, pardon? Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms? Revenuers, yep. And so you don't get your church back until they've completed their investigation. So if that's 1 day or 5 days, it doesn't belong to you until then.
Does that mean you can't take your sacramental things out?
You got it. You cannot remove a thing. We had a church, there was one church fire that exactly that happened. The church burned down. Pastor wanted to get the computers out of the church, and so he just went in and started picking up computers. They slapped his little hands and said, they stay until we're done.
So with that being said then, and with that understanding, then it would be all the more reason that I go with my wife, because I can't do anything anyway.
Right.
I'm basically a motion control manager at that point in time.
Yes.
Save a comment there for a minute, Rex, but how are you feeling? Church member.
I'm devastated. I will say it's the first time I've ever seen a pulpit on fire.
Little pun, no pun
comment, right.
intended.
No comment about Rex, but yes.
Table full of preachers.
We dealt with 2 church fires in Northwest recently. Yeah, I mean, people were just devastated at seeing, like you said, the loss of.
Sentimental
Yeah.
stuff,
It's-
yeah.
It's huge.
Right.
Which at that point it is, the reality comes in, and realize, hey, this is stuff. You know, as a church.
Kitty and Rex, how are you feeling?
Good point.
Well, it would be overwhelming.
You're stressed, right?
It would be overwhelming because I would be torn between family and church and God and why, and I'm asking the same question now that all my parishioners are asking. But at the same time,
The rest of us are sitting here.
then you got to move forward because that's just what you have to do. And some people may think, well, gosh, he's awful hard. Well, somebody's got to be sturdy, the post. But
I'm worried you might lose your job.
There you go.
Okay. Well, whatever the issues are, I mean, you got a number of issues. You know, we know where John is now, at least, but he's still not home. You got Dad that just had a heart attack, and you don't know how serious that is, and he has to go to another town. You got a church fire that's burning down. You got young kids at home. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and you're standing there watching what was very close to you and sentimental to you. You were baptized, you were married, you were hoping to be buried, and it's gone. You know? So go ahead, Dave. You want to start Group A?
Which means I'm one of the older.
Yep.
Who's speaking over here? Who's not speaking over here?
I'm trying to.
Am I speaking? We're getting worried about our pastor because his church burned down, his kid's missing, we think, and now his father-in-law's really had a heart attack, so we're trying to figure out what that we can do for the pastor. We thought baking cookies would solve it, but you know, no.
And they already got the cookies.
Oh, good.
That's about all, I think, right? We were arguing about who left the door open and things like that. But.
Okay. We talked about the issue of the door here, that, you know, what possibly could have left that door open. We thought about the possibility of an arsonist. We thought about the possibility of it being robbed.
The same one that started the other fire.
Those kids.
Yep.
missing kids were smoking in there.
Could be. Could have been the storm that started the fire, or the tree. So, I mean, there could be a number of different things. And as we just mentioned with this group over here, the church now belongs to the fire department. It's not your church anymore. And it's going to, and besides the fire department, ATF is going to come in, and they're going to take over, and they're going to be doing their investigation. And you don't get anything out of there or your church back until ATF releases it. So it becomes now a crime scene until they determine. Pardon?
That becomes another violation of strangers coming in and taking over. I mean, I think you see that in a lot of disaster scenes, is that all these outsiders come in and take over, and it just feels like you're violated.
Okay. Ken, even though you may look at that as being someone that's coming there really to help us in the worst possible time. Okay, this group, do you have anything else to add? And then we have do some summary.
Two crises or incidents taking place. One was the fire department had the fire scene to deal with, but the other was just in terms of the pastor and the congregation, you know, and that was so really two different issues. And the fire department were doing what they were trained to do, but now it was the congregation kind of scrambling in terms of what can we do for the pastor, what about our members, you know, so on and so forth. So.
Is this Saturday night?
Yeah, you want to say something about that?
It was Friday night.
Well, it's Saturday morning, right?
Saturday morning, so church.
Wait, is there going to be a wedding there?
It doesn't say that, but, you know. Okay, let's move on to the next one, because I think we'll get some of these things that are happening here. Tom?
Another key part that we talked about in this last scene is where the pastor needs to be. Can't do a thing about the burnt out building. His place needs to be with his family.
Okay. So what immediate needs does he have then? Family needs for one thing.
Family needs for children, family needs for wife, and support for himself.
Okay. What about the congregation? What's its immediate need? You were just talking about that.
Where are they going to worship Sunday morning?
Okay. And so we talked about some pre-planning before and getting acquainted with the other churches. What are some places where we could have services on Sunday in Plasticville? The school, possibility. Methodist church, it's possible. The what? The bar that's not identified. Okay. Same old crowd. Yep. Might this be a time when the congregation might want to call their disaster response coordinator? No? Why not?
I'm not Kansas anymore.
Okay.
Nobody wants to call the district. We find out about it.
Well, it depends on your disaster response, whether he's proactive or reactive, right? Or active. In our district, what we would do is we would know that there was a church fire there, and we would make contact. And our concern is going to be for whom? The congregation and the pastor, right? So he's got a pretty full plate that he's dealing with. So should he have to worry about services on Sunday? Well, so that's where the disaster response coordinator and the disaster response team can assist, right? Okay, Steve?
Generally speaking, at least my experience with Katrina, the pastor is going to be concerned about members of his congregation and be overlooking his personal needs.
And again, that's the kind of situation in which the team members can assist with that, right? Obviously, he's got family issues that he needs to take care of right now, but, tomorrow.
Put them on the back burner.
Right. Okay, what about what's going to have to be accomplished in the next 5 days?
Insurance is gonna have to come out and survey.
Okay. ATF is going to have to finish up their work, whether you can get the church back or not.
Well, ATF's only gonna come if it's suspicious.
Who?
ATF will only come if it's suspicious.
They'll come if it's a church fire.
A church fire.
Yep. Because it's a church fire.
Any kind of
Any church fire.
suspicious, I don't see why they would want.
That's why they're coming, to determine whether it's suspicious or not.
That's our chief's job.
It's a church fire.
Automatic, you're saying the automatic definition, church fire, ATF.
Along with, they work in harmony with the local chief or marshal, fire marshal, or whatever.
And generally in our area, it's pretty much automatic that, like you say, that the chief can make a good assessment, but the state fire marshal is usually. The insurance companies, they're the ones that are driving that.
Right. And one reason is, was this a matter of some kind of a racial problem? That they came in and burnt the church down, or what really was the cause? What really was the purpose? If this had been a robbery, that's one issue. That's why that door was left open. That was the only reason. Started looking for the sacramental vessels and they were gone. Or the other thing is, if it was an arson fire, who started it and why was it started? What was the motivation for it? If it was the storm, the insurance company needs to know that. So, there are a lot of different issues with this. So again, this part of this was to be able to say, hey, disaster response teams in your districts can play a big role in something like this, particularly dealing with the pastor and his family and the congregation. The trees down, the fires other places or whatever in town, that's their concern. But for the health and welfare of the pastor and his family, very important. Okay, any quick closing comments? Again, as we said at the beginning, we'd like these sheets back because we have another section tomorrow, as well as your identification tags on your tables. we thank you very much for your coming and your participation. It was excellent participation. You added a lot to it, and hopefully it gives you an idea of responding to disasters.